Hello everybody and welcome back to our Hof Bergmann Explained video. Today we're going to be talking about what's new and what's been changed in Hof Bergmann with the 1.1.0.0 update. That is right, Hof Bergmann has been updated as of yesterday if you happen to be watching this video on the day of its release. If not, doesn't really matter when it released because it's now available. You go over to lsfarming-mods.com, click on downloads, go to Hof Bergmann, and then you'll be able to download the 1.1.0.0 update. Now, there's three different ways to get the map. You get the map from RapidGator. That's the method I choose because it's typically the most reliable, but it is a slow download. It's going to limit you to one download at a time. It's going to take about 2 hours to download part 1. You can download part 2, and then you're going to have to wait for about 24 hours to download part 3, unless you have access to multiple PCs, or a VPN, or you download one of the parts off of your cell phone using your data plan and another part off of your PC. Then you can get it a little bit quicker. FilesHaven was the site that had the most problems with the 1.0 release, but it is still listed here. If you happen to be able to download part 1 from, let's say, RapidGator, and if FilesHaven loads for you, then you can download part 2 at the same time. That'll save you a little bit of time there, and then when RapidGator finishes, you can download part 3 from there. If you've got more money than time, well, then you can pay to download the map from the third link, which will take you over to Wet Transfer, and then it'll offer you the ability to pay a little cash in order to download the map. But it should be said that that is completely optional. You don't have to pay to download this map unless you just have more money than time and you just have to get the map right now and you can't wait a couple hours. So with that said, let's jump back over here to the map and talk about what has been changed, and then we'll talk about what has been added. Probably one of the biggest things that has been changed to this map has been the ability that we can now seed clover. So when 1.0 released, clover was added as a crop, but for whatever reason was inadvertently left off the list of things that you can seed. Well, now you can see down in the lower right corner, we do have clover selected on our seeder, so we will be able to seed new clover fields should we so wish. Something else that I want to lead this video off with is you will need a new save game. So no matter how many hours you have in your existing save game, do not try to update the map and try to continue to play on that, because things you see here just won't appear on that save game. You will need a brand new save game in order for a lot of these features and fixes to really translate themselves. I know, I'm sorry about that, but it was kind of expected. The other thing is we now have support for precision farming. So if you want to use precision farming, and I know it's a little rough around the edges right now, but if you do want to use precision farming on this map, well, you will be able to. It is completely optional though. Precision farming is not required at all. We do have a custom soil map on Hof Bergmann version 1.1.0.0 if you do use precision farming. And to that end, something else that has been added to the map is a new fill type, in that we now have the ability to make compost. Compost has been added to all manure spreaders. So we'll be able to come here to our yield improvement section. Manure spreaders, we now have the ability to spread both manure and compost across all the base game manure spreaders. And if you have a modded manure spreader, that should work as well. And then we also will be able to see our nitrogen improvement by putting compost on our fields with precision farming activated. With respect to gardens, and this maybe threw some folks off with respect to the 1.0 release as well. When you look at the gardens, it looks as if they're little individual fields. We have field info screen here. We come to our growth. We can see that they have a cultivated state. This does not mean that these need any sort of actual field work. You don't need to come in here with a little baby cultivator and dig these up. You don't need to come in here with a little lime spreader to do lime or fertilizer. They are set up to display cultivated soil, and the way that it's just been worked on this map, they show up as fields. They are productions, and therefore, as being productions, they will not need field work, nor will they benefit if field work is done to them. So don't worry about it. The fact that it has field info, these are still productions. We will be able to basically use them as if they are a standard greenhouse or a production without any issue whatsoever. Another change that has been made with respect to our greenhouse here at the garden area is that the greenhouse now consumes half as much water as it used to. Apparently the water barrel here had a leak, and water was being consumed at a bit faster of a rate than it really needed to be for your crops. So the water leak has been fixed, and therefore the water usage is about half of what it used to be. Deadwood missions have been updated in the 1.0 release. Apparently some dead trees were spawning outside the playable area. They've now been adjusted such that you shouldn't have an issue if you do deadwood contracts as far as being able to access all the deadwood trees. And in addition to that, wood transport missions have been added to Hof Bergmann 1.1.0. Our hay drying facility has been updated such that clover now can be used here at the hay dryer. In addition, the hay dryer now costs less per month as far as money to actually dry your hay. Now, it doesn't show clover here as an input, but clover can be added to our hay dryer at this point with the 1.1 update. Other changes that have been made is that the mulch texture has been corrected. It was displaying incorrectly previously with the 1.0 update. In addition, the bale storage that is located in this shed here, the trigger has been shrunken some, such that apparently some folks were having issues where they drive past the bale storage and it was storing bales for them, even though they really didn't want to store any bales. So that has been reduced. So the likelihood of errant bale storage should be over. With respect to our chicken coop, the chicken and duck trigger has been moved to the chicken coop itself, and the farmers come in and installed a shelf, and the eggs conveniently now spawn on the shelf as opposed to spawning on the floor where we had manure. With the 1.8 update, there was an issue with certain triggers here on the map just not working, like the water trigger here at the chicken coop. That has now been fixed such that with 1.8 of the map, you can now properly water various things or take liquid in or out of other triggers. So if you're having issue, for example, there's been some folks commenting about not being able to deliver milk to the calving area. That possibly was broke with the 1.8 update, but is now fixed with version 1.1 of the map. There was an issue with respect to the sheep and goat lighting that has now been corrected with the 1.1 update. Something else that has been fixed with respect to goat cheese and milk, the prices have been adjusted for those such that it is now economically viable to make goat cheese. Before, it was basically a loss or wasn't really worth your while. As far as starting machinery changes, the TMR mixer has been removed from the starting equipment. Well, because we do have a TMR mixing production. The TMR mixing production does now also include an information display here at our production. With respect to the cows, some folks expressed some issues with getting manure out of the cow area. The ground underneath this area has been increased somewhat, such that there should no longer be an issue of manure not being able to be fully collected and removed from the animal husbandry. Another issue that's been fixed with respect to the 1.1 update is that the manure heaps at the various farm areas were not properly owned by Farm ID 1 in single player. So we didn't have the little pop-up showing us our manure pit, but that has now also been corrected. Manure will still spawn in each husbandry. You'll still need to collect that, but this will now reflect properly that you do own this. In addition to owning the manure heap, if we come over here to our PDA and check out our sawmill. Previously in 1.0, when you purchased the sawmill, we didn't own the land. We now own the land with respect to buying the sawmill. And the reason that is important is because we were not able to collect wood chips without owning the land. Now that we own the land, we can properly collect the wood chips that spawn here at the sawmill. Something else you may have noticed is that the productions on this map are now 0 cost. So we can now purchase any of the base game productions at no cost. So if we can buy our dairy for $0, we can buy our grain mill for $0. For example, so all of these productions that are available can be now purchased for $0. At our fish husbandry, there's been a few changes, or fish production, I guess I should say. There's been a few changes. One, fish production has been increased. So you should be able to grow your fish faster as opposed to needing to wait so long. In addition, the spawn trigger for your crates of fish should have been adjusted because with 1.0, if you let too many fish crates spawn, well, some of them ended up falling under the water, and that really wasn't a very good time in order to get those. So that has now been corrected and shouldn't be an issue. If you're like me, you found yourself losing from time to time little totes of smoked fish under the decking. Well, the ground has been adjusted such that we should no longer have an issue of losing crates or totes of smoked fish under the decking as well. Our friendly neighborhood village shop. Well, they were never really equipped in order to process or accept bulk goods. So they no longer accept bulk goods. In fact, the guy back here who takes care of deliveries, apparently it's a girl tonight. The lady that takes care of deliveries back here, she's been informed no longer accept bulk goods. She'll only now accept things that are in pallets or crates. In addition, apparently the doors here at the bakery, they weren't the most secure. They've now been beefed up a bit, and it's not going to be easy for you to drive through those when they are shut. At the vehicle dealer, the spawn point has been rotated, which will make it a lot easier for larger machinery to be collected here at the shop. Previously, everything spawned basically in this direction, and it was fairly close to this retaining wall. Now that it's been rotated 90 degrees, it should be a lot easier for things to be collected here at the shop. While we're talking about shop items, the small crate and small animal sack that were available in version 1.0 have been removed from the 1.1 update. So we no longer have the ability to buy the small animal crate or the small animal bag in order to transport our rabbits, chickens, or ducks. We now will have to use the trolley that is available here in order to transport those animals. The garden center has now been set up to accept various products in the form of big bags. So you will not be able to deliver bulk goods to the garden center, but you will be able to deliver goods in big bag format. And to that end, if we come back over here to our big bags, the big bag maker has been updated to allow stones to be placed into big bags and therefore sold, as well as compost. So we can put compost into the big bag maker and sell it here at the garden center. We can also sell our root crops here at the garden center via big bags and earn a little bit of extra money versus selling them at the animal dealer. The animal dealer will accept bulk product like bulk potatoes, sugar beets, and such. But again, you're going to get more money if you take them in big bag format. I thought I'd cover the last couple things that are changed with the 1.1 update here from well above the map. Overall, the snow mask has been updated. Snow is appearing where it shouldn't appear in the 1.0 update. That's been corrected. In addition, some of the shops did not follow the properly posted opening and closing hours. They have now been told to follow the hours that they are now posted. So they'll be now opening and closing as posted. In addition, there was a conflict with the round baler extension mod with respect to wrapping clover and it converting to silage. That has now also been fixed. So if you use the round baler extension mod, you won't have any issues with that. And various floating objects, as we float above the map, various floating objects have been fixed such that they now conform to the laws of gravity. Before we jump over to what's been added to the map, I noticed from above, Farmer Andy's been working a little bit on the expansion to the map. We can see some roads laid out. We can see some areas laid out over here. And if we look at our PDA, well, we're basically looking at this area over here. So what's coming in 1.2 as a teaser? Well, there you go. You got a little idea. We got another town area. We've got some other areas over here that look like they're laid out for productions or other farms. Some fields that are starting to kind of form via the trees and such. So I'll be really excited to see that materialize in the fall update of 1.2. Let me make my way over here to the biogas plant, because this is where we're going to start talking about what's been added to the map. But before I do that, I want to talk about what the BGA takes, because I don't remember if I really talked about what the biogas plant accepts here on Hof Bergmann, because, well, to some degree, it's a bit different than the standard BGA. You will need, of course, to own the land in order to have access to the biogas plant. And when you do, it's going to say incoming materials are fermenting substrate. Well, you may think to yourself, what the heck is fermenting substrate? Well, I'll tell you. The BGA is going to accept silage, manure, chaff, grass windrow, sugar beet cut, sugar beet organic waste, more on that in a minute, clover windrow, and there you go. In addition, you can put clover windrow in your silage bunkers in order to produce silage. Okay? Something that has been added to the BGA is this information screen. So we should see information as far as the fill types that are in the biogas plant being dynamically adjusted on the info display. Now, we led off the video talking about precision farming being added to 1.1. We talked about there being a custom soil map also being added to 1.1. And we talked about the addition of compost and compost working with precision farming in 1.1. Around behind the cow manure heap. So we have our cow barn here at the main farm, right? We have our manure heap, which we already talked about being now properly owned by the farm. We have a bunker back here for compost, and it's going to accept organic waste. Well, what per se is organic waste? Well, if you think about it, it's basically things that rot. So we're talking about grass windrow, chaff, dry grass windrow, straw, pig food, forage, incorrectly mixed TMR, manure, potatoes, sugar beet cut, wood chips, silage, already made compost, grain grist, and clover windrow. All of those things can go back here and be dumped. When they're dumped here, they will instantly convert into organic waste. We'll then level it, we'll compact it, we'll blanket it, and it will bake and turn into compost. Compost can be sold at various locations, and it can also, as we have already mentioned, be put into big bags and sold for a little bit more money. So you can see compost is going to be accepted at the Bawa in bulk, or it's going to be accepted at the garden center via big bags, and as a result, should give us a bit more money. Doesn't look like it's the case right here, but overall, it should work out in our favor. At the winery, we have this nice slope of grapevines, and some players were struggling to get the large grape harvester through these grapevines and turn around and everything. So, with the 1.1 update, I introduced to you the Grape Sucker 2000. This is a custom grape harvester that has been included with 1.1. And the way this works is it's just going to suck the grapes off the vines at a pretty darn good clip. And it's going to make harvesting these grapes a whole lot easier. This particular harvester also has a second function in the fact that it can also be your pruner. So once you have harvested your grapes, you're going to be able to come back and prune them with this same piece of machinery. So players should have a lot easier time in harvesting your grapes with this particular harvester. We're going to find that under mods and DLCs, under Hof Bergmann, and then we have the Tigre car 3200GH for 25,000. We have configuration options of standard tires or wide, and we can change the rim color. But beyond that, it's pretty easy to operate. During the changes section of the video, we talked about how the buy trigger for chickens and ducks were moved in the 1.1 update. And the reason that has occurred is because we have a new animal added to 1.1 with respect to geese. So if we come over here to this trigger, we can now buy and grow geese, or keep geese. We can put 30 in this particular coop, and they are independent of the chickens and ducks, but they will walk around in this area as well, but they are completely separate. So they do have their own food inside here. They have their own straw plane. Manure is going to spawn here as well. Now geese are going to be also able to be taken over to our slaughterhouse, so the farm butchery. If we take a look at our animal husbandry, you see that geese are going to require grain, and they're going to produce manure. We're going to require straw for that. They're going to reproduce. So they have a gestation period of just 1 month and a puberty at 10 months of age. And these are basically a meat animal. So like I mentioned, once you have built out your butchery, we don't have the butchery built out here, but once you build out your butchery, you will be able to bring geese to the butcher. So you can see we are now accepting goose as well as poultry, and geese are basically a big version of a chicken with respect to how they're going to be produced here in the game, and you're going to get more poultry per chicken, or per goose, sorry, than you would with respect to poultry per chicken. So it's going to be more viable in theory to raise geese for meat than raise chickens for meat. And then the last thing that I want to point out here with respect to the 1.1 update is you're going to find more grass fields have been added with the start of a new save. So we had this patch of grass, farmland ID 4, beside our farm. We had, of course, a large patch of grass up here at farmland ID 39 as well. But these are not necessarily fields. They're just what I call map grass. And you can't fertilize map grass. You can't increase your yield on map grass. And to that end, we now have some distinct fields of grass. So when you load up the map for the first time, you will find some fields are set already for grass themselves. And since these are real fields, then you will be able to fertilize them. They will accept lime, and therefore you will be able to increase your overall yield on that grass as opposed to the map grass. So that's it for the 1.1 update of Hof Bergmann. We will be having some additional Hof Bergmann explained videos in the near future, covering some of the newer features like compost, like geese, and such. So be sure to keep an eye on the channel for that. If you're not a subscriber, please, by all means, click that subscribe button and that notification bell. That way you can be sure to get information on new uploads of our Hof Bergmann Explained series, as well as new uploads related to all of our map guides that we do for Farming Simulator 25, as well as our live streams, typically on Mondays and Wednesday evening. Let me know your thoughts down below with respect to the 1.1 update. Were some of the things we covered in the changes, things that you had experienced with 1.0, or what do you think of the addition of compost? What do you think of the addition with respect to geese, the custom grape harvester, or other changes that have been made to the map? Until next time, happy farming.